Good afternoon. Where's the bell? Where's the bell? I don't know. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates. Please, can I kindly ask that you all use your headsets as we proceed with this program. Welcome to the Black History Month discussion panel with the theme Racial Diversity at Sea. Before I start, I would like to read out the program for today. We will start with an opening remarks from the Secretary General. We are very grateful for the Secretary General being available today, as he only just arrived from his mission today. After that, we will have the discussion panel followed by the Q&A session. After the panel, we would like to invite the Secretary General to announce the winners of the Black History Month photo competition. And that will conclude the event of the day. Without further ado, allow me to invite the Secretary General to the podium for his opening remarks.
Oh, is this your phone? Good afternoon. Good. We're all awake after lunch. That's good. Thank you for being here on a Friday, those who were able to make it. I hope some of you are also able to follow the event online. And of course, it's important because at IMO and as a member of the UN, we continue to strive and demonstrate that we are a diverse and inclusive organization. And of course, this Black History Month discussion focuses in navigating racial diversity at sea, which somehow we also can link it to our maritime theme for this year, which continues to be all about safety and celebrating 50 years of the SOLAS Convention. And we can go back a couple of years ago. I think it was 2021 when the Senior Management Committee agreed or endorsed the first racial equality and equity strategy, the IMO Secretariat strategy, which of course we were ahead of the rest of the UN at that time. And I want to appreciate the work of the group in drafting that strategy. I want to also acknowledge the fact that the group continues to work, and right now we're in the process of revising and updating the strategy, in particular the action plan. And it is my intention that once we finalize that revision of the strategy as well as the action plan, hopefully in a future session of the Council, probably next year or the year after, we can then submit it to the member states so they can be aware not just of the strategy that we have adopted at the organization, but also the actions that we are taking in order to implement the plan and demonstrate how we are embracing racial equality and equity. This year is the last year of the United Nations Internal Decade for People of African Descent, and is the international community's responsibility to acknowledge and recognize people of African descent, that they represent a distinct group whose human rights must be promoted and protected. My dear colleague Fola already highlighted the plan for today, so I'm not going to go into details on it, but I look forward to the conversations and the discussions with the panel, particularly their experience and their perspectives when it comes to diversity. And it's something that we can all learn every day a little more. I would like to reiterate my commitment, and I'm sure that is also your commitment, to continue to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion within IMO and on every work and every action that we take. We will continue to have different engagements. Remember that there's a book club that it's also engaging and inviting and welcoming everyone who has the opportunity to take part and participate. If you don't read the whole book, trust me, you can still go. That's what I did the last time. Couldn't finish it, but learned a lot from those exchanges. And in closing, I want to emphasize that diversity makes IMO a unique environment to work with, and for us to continue to welcome and embrace these multicultural opportunities that we have in our lives. With that, I give the floor back to Fola, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. We will now proceed to the main session of the day. I would like to invite Ms. Abigail Mahaisen, who will serve as the moderator, and the panelist for today to come to the podium. Ms. Lydia Farad, Ms. Shannon Billy, Ms. Adele Johnson, and Mr. Paula William. Okay. Now, Abigail, the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Good afternoon, colleagues and delegates. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to have the honour today to be the moderator of this valuable discussion. We have the opportunity to listen and speak with the panellists who will share with us their views and experiences. I'll introduce everyone. So to your right, we have Shannon Billy. She's an electrotechnical officer at the Royal Fleet Academy. To my immediate right, we have Adele Johnson. She's the Human Resources Director at Danata. Danata is the Dubai National Air Travel Agency, part of the Emirates Group. She was previously the Aviation Ambassador for DFT, Department of Transport. To my immediate right, we have Mr. Bauma William. He's our alternate permanent representative of Nigeria to IMO, and he's been following our IMO discussions for quite a while. He has a particular interest in seafarers, having been in that role for over 15 years in Nigeria. Okay. Last but not least, we have Lydia Farad. She recently joined the ITF, International Transport Workers Federation. She's our representative at IMO. I forgot to mention, you're also a graduate for World Maritime University. Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you. Perhaps we'll start with questions. The first one I'll aim with you, Shannon, if that's all right. Okay. One of the questions that were asked is, what's your impression on your journey so far as a cadet? Has there been any experiences that triggers you to think more about racial diversity?
I think my journey as a cadet, I'm hoping not too far. Is that right? Yeah, there you go. Cool. Sorry about that. I think my journey as a cadet, it started from doing my military training in Dartmouth. As Royal Fleet Auxiliary, I'm not sure if everyone knows or doesn't know, but we support the Royal Navy. So you had to do military training for 10 weeks in Dartmouth. Within those 10 weeks, there was 45 cadets or so. Some of us were cadets, some were already qualified, but there wasn't many people of colour there. I was one of two. Once I completed my 10 weeks and graduated, I then moved on to Southampton when I'd done my 3 years cadetship. Again, it was only two of us that were people of colour. At the time, I didn't really think too much about it. I was there to do what I wanted to do and to gain the experiences that I wanted to gain. It then moved to when I went on my first ship. There was 82 of us on board, and I was the only black person or person of colour on board. At that point, it kind of made me sort of think about what I was coming into and what the industry had, and how I could make an impact really in a positive way. There's certain things that I would do on board. I would question certain things that I could or couldn't say because I wouldn't want people to think of me or not think of me in a certain way, and I wanted to project myself in the best way possible. I definitely worried when we was going for social events, when we had downtime on ship, when we was working on ship. I didn't want people to think of me a certain way, so a lot of thoughts that were going through my head, I don't think everyone would think of in a normal industry or in a normal environment. I think it's definitely things that I think about whilst I'm doing those things and the things about I want to do in the future. So there is a number of things that I feel like I need to be aware of. I'll never let it impact my work. I'll never let it impact the way I look at people or the way I feel people should look at me. But I think that is the main thing that I would take from my experiences personally.
Thank you. Thank you.
No.
This question goes to Mr. William. Nigeria is one of the biggest supplier countries of seafarers in Africa. We wanted to know, how do you think the labour market for seafarers accommodates the global priority for promoting diversity and inclusion, in this case, racial diversity?
All right, thank you so much. First, I want to seize this opportunity to really thank the SG for allowing this to happen. I've managed the Nigerian Labour Exchange Center, Seafarers Pool, for 15 years. Also part of which is cabotage enforcement, which enabled me to really have a particular focus on seafarers. And so why I try to commend the SG is that, and of course the organizers, is that this is a big elephant in the room, which has, nobody talks about it, but it's there. So a bit of background. Nigeria has about 65,000 registered seafarers, out of a population of approximately 240 million, 60% of which are below the ages of 27. Young, energetic people, and most people speak English, which is the seafaring language. So that is where we are as Nigeria. Now, we do face seafarers that have observed, it has been reported and observed, that seafarers do face a lot of challenges, even vessels operating in Nigeria, because most of the vessels are foreign flagged. And very tricky because there seem to be a glass ceiling, a certain level that you can not go beyond, even if you go to the same nautical institution, same qualification, even if it's more, you may find that after a certain number of years, the African, the black person, the Nigerian would be maybe second officer, while the other person would be chief officer or captain or master, as the case may be. There's also the case of disparity in salaries same rank, same role, same everything, but the salaries are different. It happens because I said this is my beat for like 15 years. So it happens a lot. Now, these are limiting systems that really demotivate and demoralize the seafarer to really go out and do his best. Why it is worrisome is that there are approximately 2 million seafarers in the world, 1.980 something seafarers in the world, but we have 60% of them that are aging, growing old. So there are a lot of, so the industry is short-handed right now. There's the challenge of young persons trying to make career at sea. They are no longer, they are not interested for whatever reason. So I would just want to add that there's a massive market in Africa, in Nigeria, but the challenges that we face now is access to enough nautical institutions that can be able to provide the requisite trainings for seafarers, persons that potential seafarers. Another part of it is where there are a few seafarers, there's also the challenge of finance. So seafarers, persons that want to be seafarers are unable to because they do not have funds to pay for that. So it's a massive challenge, and consequently the world suffers it. I believe in other countries it happens too. I mean in Africa, but in Nigeria it suffers because, like I said, if you see the population, a lot of people that want to be seafarers, but they are unable to. Hence, they are unemployed. They are unemployed because they are unemployable due to lack of skills. Now, access to that skills would require funding, would require proximity to those nautical institutions. So I thank the organizers for this forum, and I believe we should be able to find some solutions to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll move on to Lydia. From the perspective of ITF, how's the trend of racial discrimination? I know you've been there for a short while, but perhaps you might be able to talk around it. How do you find the discrimination case on board, and what steps has ITF taken to address this matter?
Thank you again for this question. And yeah, I've been with ITF. Actually, I was working with ITF before, but not in this position. So I know a little bit, but of course not everything yet. When it comes to number and the tendency, I can't really share any real numbers. But as ITF, we have a strong position when it comes to discrimination, whatever form of discrimination is. And we clearly denounce that. And we had made some stuff to make it easier for seafarers in general. For example, I think the strongest thing that ITF did was the collaboration with the ship owners when creating the guidelines for eliminating bullying and harassment on board ship, which I think it's already part kind of discrimination, because most of the time we experience harassment when we are already discriminated. So that was one of the things ITF did, and it was really good because straight after that we had a response from IMO and ILO, then amendment of MLC, and that's something, I think it's the greatest thing that ITF did in this part. But we had also did other things, like we do many of campaign to raise awareness, and we have cruises seminars, for example, regularly, where we talk with our seafarers, affiliate seafarers, and explain how they could react, what they could do, how to tackle these things. We have ITF inspectors all around the world who again receive many complaints from the seafarers and try to help them with that. And we work with our affiliate, again, also all over the world, to collaborate with the different ship owners to create agreement so that we have this policy against that from the shipping company. We did other things as well. We're present at IMO and ILO, so we try to lobby for a better, safe environment, because, again, discrimination on board the ship will create harassment, which is a safety issue. So we try to raise awareness in this regard as well. And again, I think discrimination is not only on board ships, so we try to work on a global level. It's from the employment, so when we're hiring people, who are we hiring? And it's a huge process. So we try to do our best to help our seafarers. But of course, I think it's something that everyone should work on, not only us as an organization or as workers representative organization or ship owners, but also flag state, the countries should do their part of work as well in this. Hope I answered.
Thank you. I'm going to move over to Adele. Adele is our HR director in the aviation sector. Bearing in mind you are in the aviation sector, could you tell us what governs the issue of racial diversity?
Well, thank you for having me from the aviation sector. It's been really interesting to hear some of the numbers that I've heard today from your industry. So you would think that because we're a global sector, that we'd be really diverse. Naturally, you'd think that, but unfortunately, the data says otherwise. So if you look at some data, and I think, SG, you mentioned 2021 when you implemented some amazing new policy here. If you looked at the US at that point, 3.9% of airline pilots and engineers were black or black African. 3.9% in the US of a country that size. If you bring it to the UK, 7% of airline pilots are from the BAME community. So you can see that although it's a global employer, a global industry, the diversity just isn't there. So although there has been quite a lot of work done, and there will continue to be more work done, it needs to take place, and it's forums like this that will expose some of those figures. So some of the things that the sector has done globally are things such as industry-wide initiatives such as IATA 25 by 25. Now, although that was focused on gender, what that allowed industry to do was to hold the mirror up and have a look at some of their people data and say, right, let's look at gender because that's easy to capture. But, oh, hang on, what about this part, and what about that part, and what about this part? So it was really that mirror that we needed, and it was a safe place to start, I expect. But I know that having just attended the IATA D&I conference in Geneva a couple of weeks ago, they are super keen to expand now into disability, into race, into several other areas. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of that. But yeah, the mirror was super important. Now, other things such as policy implementation, so we've talked today about policy, we are expanding on the typical standard equal ops. We're actually giving people budgets. We were talking about budgets earlier. There's now DE&I budgets. It's not just linked to CSR. So there's roles that we probably haven't heard of before in the sector, such as Director of Diversity and Inclusion. I mean, we wouldn't have heard that role just a few years ago, so it's fantastic to see that, as well as community, so ERGs, so employee resource groups throughout our industry, and airlines are really doing a fantastic job at championing these, and they focus on race, from Indigenous groups to the BAME community and so on and so forth, but some really great work out there. Training and education, so exploring some unconscious bias, we hear that a lot. Confirmation bias is one I probably would see in my sort of experience over my years in HR as, oh, I know that school, oh, that's a good area. Yeah, we must employ that person, and you end up with a room full of people that look like you. So that's never good. And actually there are studies out there that show the more diverse your leadership table, the more profitable you are. So, you know, if you talk about, I talk in different languages at work in terms of, we talk hearts and minds, we talk commercial, we talk finance. If you talk finance, there's a bottom line element to being diverse, and we must be invested in that respect. And data collection. So as IATA kicked off the 25 by 25, as I said earlier, it allowed us to have a look at our data and also understand some of the data that we're not collecting, because it's optional. So it's optional to disclose that at application, it's optional to disclose that through employment. So really looking at creating psychologically safe spaces where people can go, actually, when that form comes out, I am going to tick that box, or I am going to declare what, you know, my socioeconomic background is, etc. So really just starting to look at culture so that you can collect that data and then you can look at it and interpret it. And then adapting our recruitment processes. So having a look at accessibility through to removing some of those, you must have 10 years and you must have 2 degrees, so on and so forth. But we're really, really inclusive. So removing some of that and exploring different apprenticeship routes. So I've worked with Heathrow Airport and the Skills Hub there to support apprenticeships into ground handling and apprenticeships into airport work and so on and so forth. So removing some of the barriers around accessing jobs into aviation, or the perception that you must have, you know, XYZ and 20 years, or know somebody before you can apply. So some of those things there have been really important to us, and I think it's showing that there's some progression made and yet to be made.
Thank you. Thank you. Shannon, if you don't mind, I'll move over to you. How can maritime training institutions better promote racial diversity and prepare cadets to work in a multicultural environments?
I think there's a number of things that can be done personally. Me, myself, I've just started to go around to schools in London. So I'm going around into secondary schools in London where the cadetship that I partaked in is not really heard about. It's heard about in Portsmouth and Southampton. But I think in London, and London is the place that I'm starting at, is to speak to schools where there are different communities there and there are different backgrounds within different schools in London. So I think that outreach has definitely got to be done in certain areas and areas where outreach doesn't normally partake in. I think is a big step personally. I think another step is providing online training. So it's not something that you physically have to go into, but it's just like a PowerPoint and interactive sort of training that you can, everyone should partake in, starting at the very start, so from cadet level, because the type of ships that everyone goes on will vary. So even though I'm from the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, someone may go onto cruises or tankers where there won't be as many British people, and they may be British themselves, or there may be people of colour, and it will be a very different mix. Whereas the ships that I was on were predominantly British people, or Irish, or Welsh. So I think it's opening cadets' eyes from very start before they enter a ship, to let them understand that there will be differences on ship, and to understand those and to respect those at the same time. I think is a big step. I think it's just opening people's eyes early on, I think is a good idea, and understanding the different boundaries that need to be taken and respecting people's views and beliefs. But I think definitely outreach and policies, as definitely has been spoken before, and training should be provided from an earlier stage rather than a later stage. Not everyone comes from the same background, not everyone's met people from specific backgrounds, and it can be challenging for some people. I completely understand that, but I think it's something we do need to overcome, personally.
Thank you.
No worries.
That feeds well into my next question of you, Adele, in terms of talent. When it comes to attracting talent to the industry, is there any specific strategy that the aviation sector uses and to promote that racial diversity?
So in terms of strategy, post-COVID, I think we were all fighting. There was the biggest talent war you can imagine. So we were competing with retail, hospitality, so on and so forth. So trying to define a strategy at that point I would imagine was just we need to fill the vacancies. Now we've gone back to being far more targeted. And I think you start your strategy with trying to understand what your purpose is as an employer, as an organisation and as a brand. So have a think about sort of who are you? Who are the people you want to attract? What do you want to stand for? What are your company's vision, mission and values? Where I work, we're very values driven. We do a lot on our values, and actually those values can translate to everybody and from every background, respect being my favourite one. So having a look at your own then marketing campaigns, do they align with your values and the brand that you've just decided you want to be? And then also, if you've got now got that data, I love a heat map, have a look at who your communities are, where they're made from, who you employ, what speaks to them, what's going on out there in your local network and your talent pool, where you'll be looking for people, and really try and outreach and connect. And also be humble in that you won't get it right and you won't know all the answers. And I think we talked about that earlier today. We're all on this journey to learn and to make sure that we're doing the best with the best intentions. So if you can't and you don't understand and it's not your area of expertise and you're a bit nervous around thinking, oh, how do I attract talent from the BAME community or this community, or how do I attract more women, or wherever it may be that your focus is, call an SME. Ask somebody, whether it's an employee resource group or programs such as, and I'll name Fantasy Wings, who are a company that support young black individuals into getting pilot scholarships or people that come into the aviation sector, people that can't afford necessarily the training. We would work with them to support sort of getting people in and that exposure. Another external person or an example would be influencers. So if you're looking at, we talked earlier about people that are under 27 and those that may be coming to a retirement, how do you attract the next generation? How do you attract your next group of employees? What are they looking at? What are they reading? What are they seeing? What are they doing? What are they interested in? So we've worked with an influencer recently called The Airport Guy, millions of followers, brilliant, and he talks often about being a young Muslim man in aviation post 9/11. He brings that up a lot and says, you know, his family told him he'll never have a job in aviation because of who he was. And he's completely smashed that stigma for him, and he's doing super well. So it's sort of reaching out and saying, I don't know necessarily what's right for me or what's right for our brand or our business, but I'm going to do best intentions and find out who does. Reach out, connect with SMEs, join groups like this and forums like this and learn from one another. Be humble in that approach and pivot and be agile. That word agile, it's one of my pet peeve words at the moment because everyone says it, but be agile. You're not going to get it right, but someone else may have a better answer than you. So that's what I would say. And also just some of the basics, like have a look at your entry requirements. Do you really need that 2-1? Do you really need, those sorts of things to do a role in your industry? Now, just to expand on that a little bit further, most jobs in aviation don't require heaps of qualifications to enter. But what do you do when you've spent all that time attracting? Do you retain? So how are you speaking to the people in your business? So you may do all this work attracting people, but I always say retention is cheaper than recruitment. So have a look, invest in the people within your business. And where you'll find some data that you probably won't have thought about are when it comes to diversity, is who, if you have a refer a friend scheme, for example, as many people do, who are the people making those referrals? Who are the communities in your business that feel psychologically safe to say, hey, do you want to come and work with me? Hey, this is a good place for us, or hey, you'll feel welcome here. Have a look at there's an unusual place for data, but there's always a place to find an answer. So have a look at your refer a friend scheme, see who's feeling the most comfortable and understand why, and utilise that information. So just be forever investigative, nosy, imaginative, humble, and just get out there and engage.
Thank you. Thank you. I've got a question for Lydia. Lydia, I can't recall if I actually mentioned that you are previous first officer. You are a seafarer. So as a former cadet yourself, what challenges do people underrepresent in racial or ethnic groups, you know, in the sea?
I will talk my experience myself. I think we could have, not only as a cadet, but even later on when you become an officer and in different grade, you still experience a lot of challenges when you come from, I would say, underrepresented category. So it could be going from discrimination, so harassment, lack of chances to get promoted and compared to the others, cultural bias that happens a lot, and language as well. When you are the only one speaking one language and the rest of crew speak another language, for example, then you could really feel rejected, and that could have an impact on your mental health and stress, anxiety, and so on. So it's not. There are many challenges. And it's not only for colored people, but again, it could be because of the gender, the age. I experienced that myself when I just started as a cadet, because I'm a woman and young woman, then it was not really something that people trust or appreciate. And then once I became an officer, same thing, young officer, woman. Not something that everyone appreciate. And when you have to give sometimes orders for other people, then, oh, come on, we're receiving orders from this young lady. That's not something that we would like. And this was like when I worked in an environment where we were all from the same nationality. So it was not something that related to where I come from. It was because of the gender and the age. Later on, I moved to another shipping company, which is like a worldwide one, and a huge industry, cruise ship industry, coming from tankers. I was thinking that, oh, it's gonna be much easier there. It's diverse. We have people from everywhere. It's a cruise ship. We have more women, so it's not going to be that hard. And I was first officer at that time, so was also, again, it's not like when you start in as a cadet, you have more experience, you know what you're doing, but it's not the case. I experienced more discrimination in that company than I had when I was younger and I just started in the other one. That time was not because of my gender only, but then because where I come from Africa, and I was the first one hired from my region, the whole North Africa, and it was a new thing. Then new issues started, new challenges. Oh, how come we hired a woman from that part of the world? Oh, how come you're not wearing a hijab? Are you Muslim? Are you Christian? Many questions then comes, and people start again putting a lot of pressure just because of that. Should we trust her? Is she doing that just because she's trying to do that so that we accept her? Was much, much harder, and this could impact really mental health. I think I was strong enough. I was able to do it, but it happened to other women as well and to other people, and it's not something easy to go through. I had the support from ITF at that time. I was already part of the ITF, so I knew how to deal with things. I knew my right, and I knew what to do in case anything happened, and I made that clear when I was on board. But for people who doesn't know their right, who doesn't have that support that I had, then it might be much more difficult. And I know women that stopped sailing. I know people from my country that were not able to go that far. So yeah, challenges could be different, and it's important to tackle that. It's important to know our right. I think this is the most important thing, and know how to stop this going forward. Yeah.
Thank you. We've got two more questions. Ladies first. Shannon, can we ask you how maritime training institutions can better promote racial discrimination and prepare cadets to work in a multicultural environment? Sorry. Pardon?
You asked me that question earlier.
I have?
Yeah.
I have? Oh, I do apologise.
It's okay, there's one more left. I think it's a problem.
If it's you, I do apologise. What do you see, Mr. William, as the biggest opportunity for maritime industry to improve racial diversity in the coming years? I do apologise.
It's all right. Thank you so much. I think it's an opportunity, big opportunity. First is knowing the problem, diagnosing the problem, and so it's important for us to understand what exactly is discrimination. And discrimination can be, like my colleague said, could be based on your sex, could be based on the way you speak, the way you look, maybe the way you worship your God, the way you pray. And so discriminations are many. And these discriminations do happen because, among other things, could be because of some stereotypes, what we've learned, what we've heard, what somebody told us, or just some perception. So, meaning we take decisions about people based on the pair of glasses that we wear. So it is important now for the industry, for all of us, the IMO, employers, all of us to choose to be colorblind, in this industry. Now, when we are colorblind, when we don't see anybody color, we see everybody as a human being. And every human being is created with inherent dignity. Smart person, he can learn, he can unlearn, he can develop new skills. And he can move to another transit, we are now making some transition now. Seafarers trying to now upskill so that they can now be able to manage autonomous vessels. So it has to start with us. And then when we are able to identify that there's a problem that needs to change, and we now see that there's a gap, massive gap in the industry, because of age, because of a number of things, and even because of the way we behave, some people are going. So if we change our attitude, change our mindset, and then we now take decisions with inclusivity, be open-minded, give opportunity to everybody without any bias at all, we can be able to attract people that will work, competent people that will turn out as efficient seafarers. So, which now brings me to sustainability. And sustainability is not only about sustainable environment. Sustainability is also about us, about the human being. So you need to have a sustainable human being. Otherwise, if you have a sustainable environment without the human being, then the world will just be empty. So I think, first of all, is to understand the situation and now provide, like I mentioned earlier, access to education, access to funding, because human beings are teachable. Leadership quality, leadership can be taught. Positions of authority can be taught, can be learned, and can be executed by whoever and whatever person. So I think there's a lot that we must do as managers of the industry, as critical stakeholders, to really encourage, to retain seafarers, and also now, given the right condition, with my population of over 240 million in Nigeria, given the right condition of removing issues of discrimination and being open to diversity, we can be able to produce in Nigeria alone 2 million seafarers, because there's a lot of people and they want to work, but they need to be welcomed. They need to know that we are human beings and we can make mistakes, and we can learn not to make mistakes. And we need to also appreciate that you can only learn even by making mistakes, then you now know there are other ways of doing things right. So that is part of my submission. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for listening as well. It's been very enlightening. It's provided me, and I'm sure everyone else here, with considerations and some thoughts as to what to reflect upon and hopefully what to revisit when it comes to racial diversity. We'd like to open now for questions and for Q&A. This should take about approximately, we've got about 15, 20 minutes. So if I don't know if anybody wants to start, but can we please raise your hand and mention your name and organisation, then ask the question.
Hi, Brice Martin-Castex from the AMO Secretariat. So thank you very much, very interesting panel. Of course, we heard we are talking here about the maritime industry at large, and I'm sure that everyone here understands that we are not totally talking about seafarers and cargo ships, but fishing vessels. So I would just like to ask colleagues here from the panel, especially the one representing Nigeria and ITF, whether the comments we heard would apply the same in the fishing sector regarding fishing vessel safety, the training of fishing vessel personnel. Are the situations the same? Are they better? Are they worse? And whether any recommendation you would have would apply similarly to the two same parts of the same maritime industry, which is also turning very global, even in the fishing sector. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think when it comes to the fish, at least for ITF, we cover also the fishing industry. It's not only seafarers on board cargo or cruise ships, but also fishing industry is included. And I could say that it might be even worse in the fishing industry when it comes to discrimination and harassment. But again, depend on what type of discrimination, what type of harassment, because again, it's very different. We have different forms, but yeah, that exists as well in the fishing industry. And whatever we said, I think applies as well for that. So we need to try to make it better even for that sector. I'm not sure if I answered. If there is any more follow-up question, then you could ask and I could maybe give you more details.
Brice, is that all right?
Of course, and it's nice, of course, to know that ITF is also representing the fishing sector. And when we attend meetings with ILO, we know that they also speak in their name. And if you don't mind, I was trying to turn to the panelists from Nigeria as well on the same issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your contribution. Like Adele said, I mean, it is worst in the fishing sector in Nigeria. For the seafarers, we have the ITF benchmark rate for seafarers, and we are implementing the MLC 206, maritime labor inspectors, different regulatory agencies go about to make sure that seafarers are properly taken care of. But the fishing sector is very tough. Regulating and monitoring them is really not that easy. It's difficult. Hence, the recent transition of the Nigeria Ministry for Transportation into the Ministry for Marine and Blue Economy, so we can have a particular focus. And the move we're making to really domesticate the STCWF, because no consideration is given. You would see seafarers a few times that we've come across them when we, go for offshore inspections of seafarers. You could see the seafarers on the fishing vessels. They are not kitted. They are not given no standard condition of service at all. They could just be employed and fired, no contract at all, no career protection. You can only, career progression is just based on if the boss like you or not. And if he doesn't like you, he doesn't like you. So consequently, there are a lot of accidents, near misses. Yeah, so but Nigeria is taking a very close focus on that now, and we should be able to bring feedback very soon on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello, Rara.
Thank you so much. My name is Rara from IMO Secretariat. I have two questions, and probably it's best for Adele and Shannon. My first question will be for Adele, especially. Do you have any idea or suggestion on the practical strategy to tackle unconscious bias in organization or in general in management? And then my second question for Shannon would be, in your personal experience, was it easy to discuss about racial diversity and inclusion in your office, and not necessarily to discuss about issues, but to bring up the matters itself? And also, what do you think is the a practical measure to promote the awareness of this issue? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So in terms of unconscious bias, in our business we are rolling out unconscious bias training. And that will go from every sort of CEO to their direct reports and so on and so forth. And training is good whilst training lasts, so it would need to be recurrent. In practice, I think for me, what's very important is diverse recruitment panels. So don't just, and you see it happen, people will buddy up with the same person they recruit with all the time because they're the most comfortable, they know the flow, they know the bounce, they know that sometimes that one's good cop, I'm bad cop, and it's habitual. So it's just breaking some of those habits, making sure you're consciously challenging as well. Something I always ask my team to do is to challenge. So if you see there's a decision that's being made or a route that's being, pursued, maybe unconsciously, as we say, challenge, stop, pause, let's have a playback. What do we think? What's our view? Do we need another opinion? Should we do another stage? Should we have someone completely random join this process and give their view on it? And just be open to that feedback. So it's that continual learning, that continual reflection, and just making sure that you're challenging one another for the right reasons.
From my experiences on ship, I feel like I've never personally brought up the issue or the subject of diversity on ship. Personally, it's never been brought up to me. I feel like some people have gone to speak about the topic but wasn't sure what to say or whether they should say anything, which I feel like is wrong. I'm happy for people to ask me questions in the right manner, in the right tone. I feel like it's something that should be spoke about on ships, whether you're in your downtime talking about it, whether it's talking about professionally. There's nothing wrong with having a conversation about anything, I believe, personally. And if you can gain a better perspective of where I come from and my background, then I think that's a positive conversation to have personally. I'll never shy away from someone bringing something up. I'll never shy away from people asking me anything about my background and where I've grown up and where my parents have grown up and what they've been through, just to spread knowledge, general knowledge. And if they can take that information on to someone else and then spread it that way, then I see it's nothing but positive. But personally, I haven't personally brought it up, maybe because I felt maybe a little bit uncomfortable too, being the minority on the ship, or not sure how they would take it, or they would point a finger and say, oh, she's bringing it up for that reason, or I'm looking to get something out of it, which would never be how I would have that conversation. Like I said, they've never brought it up, I've never brought it up. But again, I'm happy to have that conversation, and whether it'll be with a couple of guys, a couple of people on ship, or whether it'll be in other environments, I'm happy to. How to get around it, I think I need to gain more confidence personally in speaking about it, not in a professional term, just I generally do ask about people's backgrounds. Maybe people are a bit worried to ask me about mine. Sometimes they'll ask me where I grew up. I'll say South London, and then that's the conversation sort of finished. So whether that stays them off or not, I'm not sure. But again, I'm happy to. But yeah, I think it's something that just does need to be discussed, and I think it does come down to having those conversations, like I said, and me gaining a bit of confidence, and maybe having maybe some training. I'm not saying them, I'm saying everyone as a whole to have training as different backgrounds, like they said, whether it be race or religion or sexual orientation. Do you get what I mean? So it's just, I think it is just a major diversity thing, and something that I think could start as a light-hearted sort of thing when you go to a bar or whatever in downtime. Start very light-heartedly and just have those general conversations that you would with anyone else, personally. Hope that answers the question. No worries.
Sorry.
Yeah,
If
my
you don't
name
mind
is
mentioning.
Jan de Boer. I'm in the IMO Legal Affairs Office, IMO Secretariat. I thank you for making us aware of this whole issue and all its aspects. I'm also grateful for the example that was given by Mr. William about how it feels to be discriminated on board the ship when actually you're doing the same type of work and then the salaries happen to be different. I think, personally, that has also to do with how economically shipping is being arranged, with having crew from different nations under different conditions. And I would like to hear your view, and also from Ms. Adele Johnson, about initiatives actually to have these hurdles out of the way, because I think it's not so much to blame the seafarers that say are harassing, or actually that say are expressing some thoughts about where people come from, but it's also inherent if conditions are different because of economic reasons. So I would like to hear your views how to tackle that for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this important question. From the known to the unknown, during the maybe promotion or recruitment procedure, I've seen a model with IMO where when you apply for a job, I think it's numbers, so your name is not there. You would be graded based on what you submit, which I think is a good one, which should be encouraged. Secondly, I would want to also add that diversity should actually be a strength, not a weakness. So when I speak with somebody and the person have an accent, I would say that's a smart person. He can speak the language I'm speaking, and he knows another language. So it's an asset, and when you bring your ideas and I bring mine, we put it together, we're both richer. Yeah, so I understand the system, the implication when you bring a foreign crew from another place, insurance, you pay his flight, and a number of other things. Of course, that is standard. Just like if the vessel sails to another part of the world with the crew from Nigeria, you may also be able to take that. But the seafarer would be motivated and will feel part of the family, will not feel segregated, disrespected, not recognized, if he knows that if I employ, a chief engineer, apply, send applications around the world and people applied, repatriation, flying in and other things, that's a different one. But it's important to really bridge the gap. Now, if there is a particular kind of skill that this particular African seafarer does not have. Or you can itemize he has an added qualification, which means you may need to add some money to him. So it needs to be really transparent, but it also really goes with us, with the system, developing a system that is open, that is transparent. Of course, we all come from different parts of the world. We all have different stories, but our level of developments are not much. Maybe somebody from where I was born wasn't taught about computer in the kindergarten, you know, but maybe somebody from Germany was taught. But so we are. We may not have the same history or level of development, but when we are here, we should be able to be graded same if we are performing, doing the same job and performing. So it's important to really be having, if you want to recruit a seafarer, you do a collective bargaining agreement with the stakeholders, and you now agree this particular category is going to be paid this amount of money, then it should be paid this amount of money. But the most important thing is if I know that I'm not earning the same amount of money with Andriano, because Andriano has another set of skills that I do not have, I won't complain. I'll be happy. And if I need to earn as much as he does, then maybe I'll have to now go and also learn some more. So there's just need for more openness. Let there be open line of conversation. That would help. I don't know if that answers you, sir.
Well, most certainly, it actually is the way forward to be transparent. But in industry, they are quite also transparent that same jobs are being differently being paid, whether you come from a European country or whether you come from a non-European country. And it made me think when the ship owners actually try to defend that by saying that economic standards in different parts of the world are different, that allow them to pay differently. But it makes me also think, well, imagine the situation on board if you're in such a position, how that will actually affect in the interaction between people who are actually equal and are doing the same work. But these arguments are being used. So I raised this because I think we have to be aware that these are motivations and actually incentives that play a part for also the economic field into direct personal relations between crew members. And perhaps there are people who have experienced that or not. But I think it's worth looking into how this can be made aware and actually be paid tribute to in the further discussions. But I'm also curious about how this is actually happening in the aviation industry, where there are also examples over with aircraft personnel that are doing same work on board the same flight and then being paid differently because people talk about it, I would assume. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a tough question. Thanks for that. I suppose when it's within your group's control or your brand's control and you're a global business, you'll set your remuneration contextually with the country that you're in, as you say. So whether that be taxes, no taxes, whether it be more holiday, less holiday, paid different types of family leave, unpaid family leave. So the packages will vary with the context of the country that you're operating in. I think where there's two things that in a brand you're in control of are as we've said, the grading of that role. So you have to be transparent as a group that this is where we grade that role, and the context of that grade and that pay scale is X. So that needs to be really transparent and agreed at that level. The other part that you're fully in control of are your values. So I spoke about values earlier. I'm very passionate about values. So work against values. So work with values, I mean. So work against the framework of values. So if you've got one as respect or equality or mindfulness or whatever that may be, that needs to be embedded throughout every business area that you have. Now, if you're talking about different countries that govern their own reward and have their own policy, I mean, I think you're absolutely right in flagging it that it needs to go to a higher body for an inquiry or whatever that may look like, because one thing that I'm proud of in terms of the aviation sector is we are trying to tackle this as a sector, not as an individual competitive, your brand, my brand, this brand. We are trying to tackle this as a sector to bring people into aviation. So we having these topics in a non-competitive environment, having these conversations, in a non-competitive environment, and looking at best practice and what we should do and what we need to take up to, the necessary bodies that may be. And I think, that I would, if there are these challenges in this industry, I would recommend doing the same.
Do you have any more questions? Hello. Would you mind letting us know your name and
Yes.
your organisation?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Moderator. My name is Vusi September. I'm the alternate permanent representative of South Africa to the IMO. One question, potentially two questions in one from our side. The first one is based on an observation that one has made, that potentially we having a one-sided discussion, and I could be very wrong on this. I thought we could benefit even more if we had employers in the room to have a better perspective of the challenges that they face, to do away with what we observe as barriers to entry into the maritime sector. And one supporting fact to the comment is that yesterday I was reading a comment and I bumped into an article on a newspaper somewhere in Liberia. There's an ITF article on it. I'm not sure if Lydia is aware on it of that article. It actually speaks about the fact that Liberia has more than 5,000 ships on its flag, and yet there is not a single Liberian working on board those ships. I'm not sure if ITF would shed some light on the challenges that the ship owners are probably putting forward in terms of why there are no Liberian seafarers working on board such ships. And I bring this point mainly because if I look at the title of the flyer for the event that we are having today, one of the things that we are supposed to look at is current barriers to entry and advancement. And the last point I would like to make is that in the African continent, one of the big challenges that we face is huge unemployment. You will find that there's quite a number of young people that have gone through universities to train for seafaring, and yet they are sitting at home unemployed because they've got no access to trading vessels to complete their training and later on get employment. So that's why for me it was very important to have a voice of the ship owners so that we have a better understanding of what the issues are in terms of making opportunities available and open for black people on board their ships. Thank you.
Thank you too. It's well noted. We will take that into consideration for subsequent meetings we do have. Lydia, would you mind?
Actually, from the ITF perspective, I can talk for the challenges of ship owners. I can only talk for the challenges that seafarers face. And when it comes to the reason why there is no Liberian seafarer sailing on those ships, then I can't say why the ship owners didn't hire any. I'm not even sure how much is big. How big is the seafarers in Liberia? But one thing that we unfortunately experience in Africa or other developing countries is, I would say, lack of institutes that are recognized worldwide. We don't have so many in Africa, for example. So we don't produce that many seafarers that have actually certificates that are recognized everywhere in the world. So that's the first issue that we need. We need to educate more seafarers. We need to work on having better institutions so that we could be in the same level with the rest of the world. And then we could say that I have same competencies, that as he was saying, I have the same education, so we deserve to be hired as well. But I talked with seafarers, with people actually wanted to do seafaring education in Africa, and most of the time they need to go either to Algeria, they need to go to Egypt, Ghana. We have really, we can count them on one hand, the institutes that are recognized. And to do so, it's not easy. You need more money. You need fund to do that. Then only few are able to do it, so we don't have that strong seafarers number that can work on those ships. And most of the time also, it's easier to hire seafarers from other countries where we had already those people already, and I would say again, it will come to economical issue, then maybe it's cheaper to go that way and not other seafarers. So yeah, there are many challenges. I can talk for the ship owners again, but yeah, only for the seafarers. I hope I was able to answer, but maybe you could follow up with another question that I can, yeah, be able to answer better. Yeah.
It's okay. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you. We have time for probably just one more question if anyone wants to answer any questions. Provide any? No? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. I think it's been really good, a really good discussion here. It would be really great if we could actually say thank you to Shannon.
Can I just add something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry to just interrupt. Just to follow up the point Lydia was raising. I mentioned earlier the challenge we have is one, finance funding to fund the education to the nautical institutions, and two, I did mention also like underscored by Lydia, the proximity to the nautical institutions. So I think it's something that we should just look at. It's simple. One, the shipping industry, the seafaring industry is short-handed, needs crew. And the other part is there are, because we're talking about Africa, there are a lot of people in Africa potentially that wants to be seafarers. For example, during the MEPC, in a bilateral with a few member states that I think is present here, indicated the shortage of seafarers in their part of the country, the world, and they are happy to collaborate for capacity building so that the strong, unemployed and unemployable persons in Nigeria can be given the requisite skill so that they can be employable and competent. So we have, and I mean, like I said, we have approximately 2 million persons that are can potentially fill in the gap. That is only Nigeria alone. And if you talk about Africa, I mean, it's just so much. So I think all of us need to see that, okay, we need to match or pair the potential seafarer with the nautical institutions and maybe consider facilitating, even if it's loan, for them to get skills, and then after the skills getting employed, eventually have to pay. Otherwise, vessels will just be in the butt without anybody to work on those. So it's important. We need, and I mean, we need to navigate everybody. Vessels we need to trade. Yeah. So that is just what I just added. Maybe you want to add something more.
Yeah. I was going to add something just about that. I think I didn't mention that. One of the reasons as well that I think ship owners or these ships that are under the Liberian flag but doesn't have seafarers from Liberia, it's, I think, probably because the ship owners are not from Liberia as well. The companies are not from Liberia, so it's only flagged in Liberia. So that could be also a reason why they are not really, they choose Liberian flag, but not for the reason that they want to hire Liberian seafarers. They did it for another reason, and they could hire then seafarers from other countries. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, Adele. Thank you, Shannon. I think it would be really great if we could have a great applause. Can I please return to my colleague Fola?
Thank you, everyone. We have had a very interesting discussion from the panel and very insightful as well. The highlights for the day now would be to announce the winner of the Black History Month photo competition. I will now invite the Secretary General to come and announce the winners. Thank you.
Before I start, I really want to thank Abigail for moderating the panel and all the panelists. I think it was really interesting. Your experience, if I can start with you, Shannon, I'm just going to take the liberty to make a couple of comments, is when you mentioned that you didn't want to be perceived in any particular way and how you actually have learned from it. And what I would like to take from that, it's something that we've been campaigning here in the organization, is that people should not be afraid to ask. And for anyone, just feel free to have the questions. Sometimes we may say the wrong thing, but the only way to actually learn is by taking those first steps. And I really appreciate that you also mentioned that you're working in getting more confident as well for you to take the first steps. Adele, I had a lot of respect for everything that you have said. Unfortunately, the Director of Administration is here. I'm looking forward to receiving the recruitment policy draft, because something that I really want to work on is to bring down those barriers that exist. It's a very bureaucratic process in the UN, and I think we need to modernize if in order to actually bring new talent, and in particular retain the talent that we have. So I took many notes for what you said. So William, it's something that I keep bringing up to the whenever I have meetings, and the fact that you said that there's a potential 2 million seafarers there, for me is also, apart from how we can help, is what are the strategies that countries like Nigeria, for example, are setting up in order to attract this talent, to invest in education, because it helps the economy, and using this transition that we're going through particularly the green transition, to tap into all the opportunities. And that's something that we continue to highlight as we work on the challenges and the opportunities of the organization. And Lydia, a lot of respect for actually bringing your own experience in what you went through as a seafarer and someone that is now in this position. And I like how you tackle the questions respecting ship registration. I think you did a great job taking for someone that actually worked 20 years for Panama, and I know the reasons, or the several reasons why this happens. And of course, it's very clear that including the way that we treat people globally, and when we talked about salaries, it's not just shipping. That's something that happens across the board. It's why the UN focuses so much in tackling migration, illegal migration, as well as looking for equality as part of the Agenda 2030. But I hope that you're all motivated to continue to participate in this, to engage. We're going to have more of these events because it's learning from people from outside that would allow us to also recognize where we are internally, the progress that we've made, but that there's more for us to do as well. So thank you very much. It was a really good exchange that you have up there. And now I need to find the page because I'm not prepared for this. Sorry. Oh. Oh yes, we held, I just remember now. We held a Black History Month photo competition, inviting different skill levels of photography, showcasing unique perspectives of maritime life. And we received over 150 submissions from around the world. From there, 20 photos were shortlisted. And I think we're not going to announce, the last three, the top three. Okay, so we said, what are the winners getting? Because I can't remember.
The winner's getting the GoPro.
Oh, yes, of course. You would have thought that I would have been better prepared for this announcement. In third place, we have the photo?
Yes.
I have to announce it first.
Yes.
I didn't have the time to rehearse this, so it's not it's nobody's fault here. For third place is Mr. John Marvin from the Philippines, and the picture is entitled Motor Vessel Bonita. The second place is Mr. Alexander Joyce Johnson from the United States, with a picture entitled Violet and Fix Find Time for a Duet of Watch. I like that. And the winner is Mr. Simon McDonald from South Africa with a picture Helping Hands. To express appreciation for all those who participated and all those who organized this photo competition as well, and the panel who selected the winners. And now, do I give the floor back to Abigail?
Yes.
You do the final closing remarks? You do? Yes. This is all on Abigail now. Sorry, no, it's not Abigail, it's on Fola. I made the same mistake yesterday in a panel.
Thank you, Secretary General. And with this, we would now to conclude the event of today, for today. I would like to thank all the participants for today. And please join us at the Delegate Lounge, Delegate Lounge for some refreshments, and also to view the photos, the Black History Month pictures that were taken. Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you. Have a great afternoon and a lovely weekend.